Welcome back to the channel. A single desperate gamble in the late 17th century almost bankrupted an entire nation, ultimately leading to the formation of another. This is the fascinating story of the Darien Scheme, a little-known colonial venture that inadvertently set the stage for the creation of Great Britain in the early 18th century. The year was 1698. Scotland, at the time a small and economically struggling nation, sought to change its fortunes by establishing a colony on the Isthmus of Panama, a strategic location for trade. The venture was seen as a beacon of hope for a nation eager to secure its place among European powers. This ambitious plan, known as the Darien Scheme, promised unimaginable wealth. It was conceived by William Paterson, a visionary with dreams of turning Scotland into a trading powerhouse by controlling the gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Riches were promised to flow like rivers, enticing many to invest heavily. Eager to compete with the mercantile giants, Spain, England, and the Netherlands, the Scottish Parliament provided robust backing for the expedition. The air in Edinburgh was filled with optimism as officials signed documents and exchanged bags of money, while maps of the New World lay spread on tables, filled with possibilities. They poured nearly half of the nation's wealth into this daring enterprise, hoping it would transform Scotland into a formidable maritime and commercial power. The bustling port cities were alive with activity as ships were prepared for the voyage, carrying with them the collective hopes of a nation seeking prosperity and influence. In July 1698, 5 ships set sail from Leith, carrying over 1,200 eager settlers. These men and women, filled with dreams of fortune and a better life, waved goodbye to the Scottish coast as the ships disappeared into the horizon, their hearts full of anticipation for the new world that awaited them. Among them were farmers, soldiers, and merchants, each with their dreams of a prosperous new life in the tropical paradise of Darien. They carried seeds of hope, both literally and metaphorically, ready to cultivate not just crops, but a new chapter in their lives. The air was thick with ambition and determination, yet, from the outset, the journey was beset by misfortunes. The Atlantic's infamous storms battered the ships, delaying their progress and testing the mettle of even the hardiest sailors. The relentless crashing of waves and howling winds became an ominous companion, foreshadowing the trials that lay ahead. As the voyage dragged on, illness spread like wildfire among the cramped and weary passengers. Below deck, conditions were dire. The air was thick with the stench of sickness and despair. The hopes of many began to wane as their bodies weakened, yet the dream of Darien kept them clinging to life. After arduous months at sea, they finally arrived at the mosquito-infested jungles of Darien, utterly unprepared for the challenges awaiting them. The tropical landscape, though lush and vibrant, was teeming with unseen dangers. The settlers faced a harsh reality as they disembarked, their dreams colliding with the brutal truth. The settlers quickly realized that the land was far from the bountiful paradise they had been promised. Instead of fertile fields, they found a harsh, unforgiving environment. The jungle loomed ominously, its dense foliage hiding threats both from nature and from the unknown. Their spirits, once buoyant, now sank under the weight of disappointment. The soil was infertile, resisting their attempts to cultivate it, and their supplies dwindled with alarming speed. Disease became rampant, striking down many of the settlers who had already been weakened by the long voyage. The dream of Darien was fast turning into a nightmare, with survival becoming the sole focus. Despite their desperate circumstances, the settlers clung to hope and named their colony New Caledonia, a nod to their Scottish heritage. They erected a wooden sign, a symbol of their resolve and determination to carve out a new life amidst adversity. Even as challenges loomed menacingly on the horizon, they attempted to establish trade with the local indigenous tribes and passing ships. However, their offerings were meager, and their understanding of local customs limited. The settlers' desperation was palpable as they struggled to form alliances that could provide much-needed support and resources in this foreign land. However, word of the Scottish encroachment reached the ears of the Spanish, who viewed Darien as part of their territory. Spain, a dominant colonial power, was not about to tolerate a Scottish foothold in its sphere of influence. Tensions began to simmer, setting the stage for conflict that would test the settlers' resolve. Tensions quickly rose, and the settlers found themselves under constant threat of attack. In the dense jungle, a standoff ensued between armed Scottish settlers and Spanish soldiers. The air was thick with fear and uncertainty, as the settlers realized their tenuous hold on survival was slipping away with every passing day. Back in Scotland, the news from Darien was grim, yet hopes remained high. Families gathered by the fireside, reading letters filled with tales of struggle, but also resilience. The nation held its breath, praying for a turnaround, even as the harsh realities of the colony's situation began to seep into public consciousness. A second expedition was hastily organized to support the beleaguered settlers. The docks buzzed with activity as supplies were loaded onto ships, while fervent prayers were whispered by loved ones left behind. Scotland, undeterred by initial setbacks, rallied to the cause, hoping against hope that this mission would succeed where the first had faltered. But the real mistake had not happened yet. As the Second Fleet arrived in Darien, they found a colony in ruins. The once bustling settlement was now a ghost town, with abandoned huts and skeletal settlers. The harsh environment and relentless adversity had taken a brutal toll, leaving the newcomers in shock and despair. The settlers were starving, and many had succumbed to disease that ravaged the weakened community. Their dreams lay in tatters, scattered like leaves in the wind. The few remaining clung to life with a tenacity born of desperation, as the grim specter of failure loomed ever larger over their beleaguered colony. Faced with insurmountable odds and dwindling numbers, the Scots decided to abandon New Caledonia in 1700. A ragged group of survivors boarded the ships, leaving behind a desolate colony, their dreams shattered. The journey home was somber, marked by reflection on the high costs of their ill-fated venture. Of the original settlers, only a few hundred survived to return home. The weary survivors, their bodies and spirits battered, arrived back in Scotland to a subdued welcome. Their tales of hardship and endurance became a poignant reminder of the perils of ambition unchecked by preparation and understanding. The financial impact on Scotland was catastrophic. The Darien scheme had consumed nearly a quarter of Scotland's liquid assets, leaving the nation teetering on the brink of economic collapse. Empty coffers and a sense of collective despair hung over the land as citizens grappled with the fallout of the failed venture. Desperation pushed Scotland towards an unexpected solution: the Act of Union with England in 1707. This monumental decision was born out of necessity, as Scotland sought stability and access to English markets and resources. It was a gamble of a different kind, yet one that promised a lifeline to the beleaguered nation. By joining with England, Scotland gained access to English markets and resources, stabilizing its faltering economy. The bustling English marketplaces, now open to Scottish merchants, became symbols of newfound opportunity and collaboration. The Union, though contentious, offered a chance for Scotland to rebuild and thrive. The failure of the Darien scheme was a painful lesson for Scotland, but it became an ironic turning point in history. It underscored the importance of unity and strategic alliances, setting the stage for the eventual formation of the United Kingdom, a powerful new entity on the global stage. It led to the unification that formed the United Kingdom, a momentous event that changed the course of history. This union created a new nation, greater than the sum of its parts, poised to influence the world in ways that could not have been imagined at the outset of the Darien adventure. In seeking prosperity through colonization, Scotland unwittingly set the stage for a greater union. The journey from the failed colony of New Caledonia to the active union was fraught with challenges, but it ultimately forged a new path forward, one marked by cooperation and shared ambitions. The Darien scheme's failure was not merely a colonial disaster, it was a catalyst for the birth of a powerful union. This unforeseen consequence reshaped the political landscape of the British Isles, demonstrating how failure can sometimes lay the groundwork for success on a grander scale. Next time you think of Scotland and England as part of Great Britain, remember that it was the dream of a tropical paradise that ended in disaster, ultimately knitting a new and profoundly influential nation together. Together, we'll explore the past and its impact on our present. For more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications.